Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Leadership Project with your host Mick Spears. We bring you thought-provoking guests and topics every week to challenge your thinking about leadership. Our aim is to help you become the leader that you wish you always had as we learn together and lead together. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Leadership Project. I'm greatly honoured today to be joined by Dr. Ray Fremista. Dr. Ray is the president of the Philippine Society for Quality and has a background in process excellence, transformation, and analytics. His current role is with an organisation called Full Potential Solutions, where he's the director for leadership development and process excellence. And we are going to focus in on that topic of leadership development today. Dr. Ray also has a side gig that he does, a passion project, if you like, called Mind Grit. And I also plan to ask him some questions about that towards the end of today's show. He's also one of the top 30 LinkedIn influencers in the Philippines, and I'm greatly honoured to be joined by Dr. Ray today. Please, Dr. Ray, say hello to our audience and give us a little flavour of your very rich background and what led you to be with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Mick. And I just want to say greetings to everyone who are listening in today. My name is Ray. I've been focusing on the space of process excellence, quality, analytics, and digital transformation for my past life or in my past life. And currently, I'm venturing into a new role, which is on leadership development. It's a combination of leadership development and process excellence, but it's mostly leadership development. And I've been doing like a lot of quality stuff right here in the Philippines and even from around the globe, partnering with them in terms of what are the key things that we're looking at from trends perspective, from quality leadership perspective as well. And so I've been appearing to different types of conferences globally as well as locally, and been part of the different types of initiatives with the government, with the different organizations right here in the Philippines, not just with the Philippine Society for Equality, but also with the different types of nonprofit organizations right here in the Philippines. That's what I do on top of or outside of work. And I've been super passionate about it. And all of the learning that I'm getting coming from the outside environment, I definitely bring that to my organization so that I can be of real value to the organization.
You are a well-known keynote speaker, Ray, and called on often to talk on these topics that you're clearly so passionate about. What I'd like to start with, what led you into quality and process excellence in the first place?
Oh, it's a very long story, Mick, because before when I graduated, I really didn't know what to do with my life. I didn't know what is that role or how does it look like or how will it look like in the next couple of years. So I started in the IT BPM industry and I was, I said entry level. Then after 6 months to a year, I get promoted to a specific position in what we call the workforce management, which focuses more on the reporting or the scheduling of the people in the organization, as well as doing all the reportings and analytics in the organization. And from there, I saw the specific role and I heard about the Lean Six Sigma, the quality management. When I heard about it, I really got interested. And then that was the moment when I said to myself, I believe this is my path. I believe this is what I was looking for. And that was the start. And that was like more than a decade ago when I had that aha moment, when I had that moment where, okay, this is my path. And then when I started doing that, I connected with a lot of people from that specific role, from that specific field. I network with a lot of leaders from quality perspective, innovation, analytics perspective. And that's where I got a lot of insight on, okay, this is where I belong. And these are all the things that I want to do for my own company or for my own organization. And luckily, I've been one of the thought leaders in terms of these fields at this point. I'm just really focusing more on knowing what I'm passionate about and really linking or networking with a lot of leaders on this specific field.
All right. So congratulations on your success, Ray. 10 years in the quality industry, on to becoming the president of the Philippine Society for Quality, and really a successful career where everyone knows you're a keynote speaker in this space, everyone looks to you as being an expert in quality and process excellence. At what point did you decide that you wanted to shift into more leadership development?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the question. Mick, it's a bit of a journey in terms of me transitioning from that specific role from quality perspective to leadership development perspective. Before taking on that specific role, I did a lot of studies. I did certification. I did trainings with the different organizations as well. Specifically from certification perspective, these are the training or train the trainer certification programs. These are the certified learning and development professional certification and other types of training. So it was a quite of X number of years doing a lot of studies from leadership development perspective. On top of that, I also did a lot of networking activities with the leaders from the leadership development space. The same thing what I did as one of the key drivers of my success from call perspective. I did a lot of dialogues with the different leaders from around the globe, getting all the best practices. What are the challenges that they're facing? What are the solutions that they're able to implement in their organization, and really make sure that I tailor fit those things that I've been hearing from them to my organization. And I believe those are the key things that I'm looking at this point, Mick, in terms of the key drivers, in terms of the transition from a quality perspective to leadership development perspective.
Along that journey, you have made a decision, in my view, when I look from the outside, where when you go down the leadership development path, you can go in multiple directions. You can become a consultant, you can work with multiple people, you can become a coach where you work with people one-on-one, or you can go into an organization and you can be looking at leadership development from the inside. What inspired you to go down that internal path instead of a consulting or a coaching path?
Actually, it was a bit of an accident, Mick. I wasn't looking for, I've been looking for the leadership development role for quite some time now and for the past couple of years. But then again, most of the time when I applied in the organization, they usually offered me the quality role, like quality role, analytics role, or it can be digital transformation role. But then again, that's because of my background. One day, there's this organization. That's the organization I'm connected with now, and that's the Full Potential Solutions. And they offered me that specific role. Hey, Ray, would you be interested to handle the director for leadership development and process excellence role? And I was like, at the back of my mind, oh, was it an answered prayer? Because I've been looking for that, because I know that, there's no more organization that will offer me the specific role because of my background. And then I answered to the president of the organization and also to my boss now that, hey, I am so passionate. And you know what? This has been my dream to be part of the leadership development team, because I really want to influence a lot of leaders in the organization to become better at what they do, to become successful in what they do. So I believe it was an accident from my perspective, Mick. But then again, I can say it wasn't an accident, but I did a lot of studies on the back end before I got to that moment wherein I get offered that specific role.
You're making me think of two things, Ray. The first one is about the shift of identity. So what I'm hearing here is that you are seen as Mr. Quality, if you like, and everyone knows you as that. And that can stick. And it can either stick to your own personal identity, but it can also stick to how other people see you. And sometimes it takes something to shift that, and you've done that. So well done. The other thing is when you said it was basically lucky or whatever the term was, the one thing I want to tell you is that luck is where preparedness meets opportunity. That's what it is. So you spend all of that time studying leadership, surrounding yourself with leadership experts, out there practicing leadership, then the opportunity came about and you were ready for it. So it's not luck, it's preparedness meets opportunity. How does that sit with you?
Thanks for that affirmation, Mick. I want to take that.
All right, very good. Now, you mentioned before about your leadership challenges that you see in the world. What do you see as the biggest leadership challenges facing companies today?
From leadership development perspective, or from leadership perspective, Mick, what I'm seeing is, number one, attrition is still high in most of the organizations. So that's why last year, the hashtag Great Resignation has been viral. Up until now, it still is. So that's one of the key challenges we have to address as organization from leadership development perspective. And second one would be, from my perspective, it's more on the connection of the employees to the mission of the organizations that they're part of. Meaning they have to be emotionally connected to the mission for them to have that commitment to work 100%. Because another hashtag that has been viral for the past couple of months for this year would be the quiet quitting. Like employees are staying in the organization, but they're not into their full potential. And I believe connecting it to the branding of our company now, Full Potential Solution, we want our people to get into that level wherein they're playing, they're living into their full potential. Because what I'm saying to other leaders, especially to the president, hey, if you're not living, if you're not working at your full potential, then what type of life do you have? So what good is life if you're not at your full potential? So those are the two things that I'm seeing.
I can definitely see the connection you're making there with the Great Resignation and quiet quitting through to connection to purpose, where if people don't see the purpose and meaning in what they're doing, of course, they're not going to fully connect and fully engage to what they're doing. And I've got to share with you, there's a lot of misinformation out there about quiet quitting. There's people that throw out stats and say, oh no, the amount of hours worked is not actually reduced. They're actually missing the point. Not the hours work, and there are some elements of quiet quitting where people are setting boundaries. No issue with setting boundaries. It's whether they're engaged in the workplace. It's not whether they're working the prerequisite hours. What are they doing when they do work those hours? And you use the word there in your company, full potential. Are they working to their full potential? And once again, I don't mean here that they've got to work at 100 miles an hour for 10 hours a day, but are they doing their very best work, or are they somewhat disengaged and not connected to the work that they're doing? Tell us more about this feeling around the connection.
Absolutely, Mick. This is actually one of the key things that we talked about when we went to Davao. Davao, by the way, to all of our listeners now, this is one of the cities right here in the Philippines, somewhere in the south of the Philippines, because our second site right here in the country is in Davao. When we had inauguration a couple of weeks ago, we had a discussion about the emotional connection. We were talking about what are the key or the core values of the organization. I mean, how do we demonstrate these core values and how do we harmonize all of these core values that we have in the organization? And then the emotional connection part went into the picture when one of the leaders said that, hey, you know what? I'm seeing that we need to focus more on emotional connection as well. Like, I'm seeing a lot of employees say, hey, they're motivated to become part of our organization, but how can we sustain it in the long run? And that's where emotional connection discussion came into the picture that, hey, if all employees are emotionally connected to the mission of the organization, we can definitely sustain what we have now. And that's one of the key things, one of the key takeaways on the dialogue that we had. That was a very good dinner dialogue with the president of the organization, with the leadership as well, right here in the Philippines. So, and I would agree with you, Mick, in terms of it's not about people staying in the organization for X number of hours or X number of years, because a lot of companies are incentivizing or recognizing people, like say, for instance, the loyalty award. But then again, loyalty or staying in the organization for X number of years doesn't mean that they are committed in that specific role. So what we want to happen is once you're working in a company, commitment must be there. You have to be emotionally connected with the mission of the organization. And I would agree with you, Mick, that you can only do that if you know your purpose, you know the purpose of the organization as well. So that you have to make sure that these are aligned with one another, the one that you believe in and what the organization believes in.
So what advice do you have for leaders out there that might feel that some of their team are not emotionally connected to the purpose and the mission of the company? How might they go about bringing this together?
Absolutely. It's a challenging and it's a very tough question to answer, Mick. But for me, being as human as you are as a leader would definitely help. In one of the studies that I've read in terms of leadership, this was a recent article that was published by edX. And they mentioned that during the Great Resignation era, like last year, the key reason why employees left the organization is because leaders didn't know how to appreciate these employees. Had it been that these leaders were trained on leadership or leadership development or how to care with their people. But then again, from my perspective, it's a bit common sense. Had it been that they're human or they became human during those times and when up until now, they could have retained all of these employees. Employees could have have been emotionally connected with the way that you treat them, because it all starts from the leaders, the culture of the organizations. We set that as leaders in the organization, and we model what is the type of employee that we need to have in the organization. If employees are seeing us as not emotionally connected to the mission of the organization, they will do the same thing. So I believe we start with us as leaders being self-aware. We take a look at what are those things that we need to improve on as a leader, and that will resonate to our employees. And being human, for me, being as humane as you are, you can definitely get a lot from our employees.
Yes, I'm loving this takeaway here about being human, and what I'm taking away there is showing that you care, because no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's the first connection. Like if you're going to connect with someone, you want to feel like they care about you. So I like this being human and this caring element. And the second takeaway I took from that, Ray, was establishing the culture that you want starts with role modeling the behaviors that you want to see.
Absolutely.
Very good. What other challenges do you see in the workplace at the moment around leadership development?
So at the moment, just want to share with you, Mick, since we are, I don't know if I can still call us as a startup company because we are turning 6 years old by next year. So we're still calling that as a startup company. So as you would imagine, like when we started, it's like around 30 people in the organization, and now we're around 5,000 plus. It means that over time, or for the past 2 years, we've hired a lot of leaders in the organization. So one of the key things that we want to ensure is that all of these leaders are aligned. We're aligned with the core values of the organization. They are integrated, they are assimilated with the culture and how we do things. At the same time, for the internal ones, we need to upskill them with the hard skills that they needed so that they can ensure that they can manage all of the teams that they're handling now. So two things that I'm looking at this point, Meg. The first one would be that one from the external leaders that we hired in the organization. They have to be assimilated to the culture of the organization well. At the same time, the internal ones, we have to train them so well on the hard skills. So these two are two different types of talents that we have. But if we definitely combine them, these are powerful things. At the same time, maybe I can share the third one is in terms of looking at the implementation of leadership development program. And since we're a new company, so there's a specific area in there that we missed. Say, for instance, from follow-through perspective, measuring the effectiveness of the leadership development program that was rolled out last year or a couple of years ago. And if we just want to make sure that we have that closed loop process, making sure that we're getting out of the investment from leadership development perspective, because at the end of the day, it's still business and we have to produce results out of these specific or different types of trainings that we're rolling out to our leaders, or different types of interventions from leadership development perspective.
All right. So I hear three things there. I hear the alignment to values, I hear upskilling where necessary, and then having a good look at the leadership development program and ensure that it's fit for purpose for what you're trying to achieve. I want to challenge you a little bit on something you said, and let's see where this takes us. You spoke about bringing in leaders from outside the organization and assimilating them to the values of the group. I want to challenge that and say, well, what we want in the workplace is also for people to show up as their authentic self. So how do you balance assimilation versus authenticity?
Absolutely. That's a great question, Mick. Even say, for instance, my conversation with my boss, I just want to make sure that I protect my authenticity. I don't want to be changed by what others are telling me to do. And that's the same thing that I'm seeing right here in the organization, that we definitely look into the diversity of the leaders that we have coming from external environment. We don't want to remove that from themselves of who they are, because for us, that's very important. So when we say assimilation into the culture of the organization, we just want to be very clear in terms of what are those key things or key ways that we are on how we do things. And before we decide on anything in the organization, we just want to make sure everything is aligned with the core values. We ensure that we put in place different types of actual scenarios that are happening in the organization, and how do we exactly attack them, or how do we address them, aligning or anchoring them to the core values of the organization, but not really changing them, but really respecting the diversity of our employees.
All right. Nice answer. I want to play back what I took from it, and please, I would like to hear your views about my takeaway here. So I'm hearing that you are doing some expectation setting you're setting some boundaries, but then within those boundaries, you're then encouraging people to show up as themselves. How does that sit with you? And to bring their superpowers to the table, because you employed them for a reason. You didn't employ them to come in and tell them what to do. You employed them because they're talented. So we're setting some boundaries and then we're letting them be themselves. All right, so 3 months into your new role, tell us what was the most surprising thing that you've discovered so far?
Surprising thing is that a lot of people, or majority of the people in the organization, they love the culture. But then again, in terms, they love the culture, which is for me, wow, that's amazing. I'm lucky to be part of this organization. At the same time, we also need to look at what are those things that we need to improve as an organization. And those are the key things that I mentioned with you, Mick, in terms of, I believe we need to assimilate everyone to how we do things from FPS way or from full potential solutions way. So I believe that's surprising from my perspective. And at the same time, since we're still a small company, the leaders themselves, they actually have different types of dialogues or different types of conversations with the entry-level employees. They make sure that they have that FGD sessions, one-on-one sessions, especially when they visit from the US, coming right here in the Philippines. They have that intimate moments, intimate discussions with them. So I believe for me, speaks a lot more about the culture of the organization and how they put people first. So there. And another surprising would be because of that, because one of the key things that we believe in that we put people first. I know other organizations are also calling that way. They also have that tagline. But in this organization, you can actually see it. Leaders are demonstrating that they put people first.
I think this is a key takeaway for me here, what you just said. And that is that the values are lived. It's not just a message that's put on the office wall plaque. It's the behaviours that actually determine the culture, not what the policy is or what the values words say. It's the way people live those values that makes the difference. All right, now I'd like to jump over to that other topic now that I teased people about before. You've also got a side project called MindGrit. Tell us about MindGrit, Ray.
Absolutely. MindGrit, this is the passion project of mine. It all started sometime in the pandemic days. Although before, I already had that YouTube channel, but it wasn't called MindGrit. The grit in there, it came from the concept of Angela Duckworth, which is grit. She had that viral video on grit. So it all started from there. I fell in love with that specific term, that grit. And then I started rolling that out, that grit concept to my students. And that was sometime in 2012. My students at the university and then my direct reports in the companies that I was connected with. And I saw that it's really working. I mean, that grit, if employees and if students have grit, or if they are grittier, definitely they can produce results. And they can be there for quite a long time in the organization. So that's one. And then the second one would be the mind. And I believe grit is not enough, and we have to have that mind. So that's why, for me, if we combine the two, then I have that. That's why it became like a brand, like a mind grit. So it all started in the pandemic in terms of the branding of the MindGrit. I started with the YouTube channel. And then right after that, I also created my Facebook account and LinkedIn page. And what I do share on that specific channel is all about mindset and motivation videos. Like, how do we identify your purpose? How do we tackle procrastination, say, for instance? How do you be at your best? How do you become happier? How do you live life to your fullest? So those are the key topics that I've been sharing on that specific passion project of mine. And there's a lot of people who are saying that, hey, thank you so much, Ray, for sharing. And I hope you keep on creating more contents in your channel. And it was really heartwarming hearing it from a lot of people from around the globe, spending some time, sending some feedback with me in terms of that passion project of mine. And so far, I've been continuing that specific project, and some organizations are inviting me to speak with your organization because of that passion project. And I believe because my purpose of that passion project of mine is to motivate not just employees, but motivate people from around the globe, inspire people that they can be the best that they can be. And I believe at some point, I've been achieving some of that mission of that passion project.
Well done on the success so far. Let's unpack it a little bit more. So when you say grit, what do you mean by grit?
Grit, it's a belief that you can actually achieve goals or long-term goals regardless of the obstacles that you have on the way. Regardless of the challenges that you'll be facing, you always believe that you can get there, that you can achieve that goal. So that's why one of the key things that we have to understand as well when we study grit would be the growth mindset, which is a very strong concept as well, coming from Carol Dweck. And that's also one of the key things that I'm including in that Mind Grit framework so that people would have that mindset that, hey, no matter what happens, I just keep going. I'll definitely get into my goal.
So thanks for that understanding of what you mean by grit. And to me, it sounds a lot like determination and perseverance. But how much do we need to balance that between making sure that we're ready to be flexible enough to do little pivots? Like there'd be one picture in some people's mind of grit that means that you just steam on no matter what. And others where you go, okay, now let's step back a bit here, and a little course corrections still get you to the top of the mountain instead of just trying to barge on through and push everything out of your road. So tell us about that balance between flexibility and grit.
Maybe I can make myself an example of that. When I pivoted, right, from being a quality practitioner to a leadership development practitioner. So I did take a little bit of pivot in there, being flexible in terms of what I do really want to happen in my life. Yeah, I'm gritty in general, I don't give up, and I always have that specific goal of mine, that long-term goal that I always hold on to. And I believe just believing that you're going to get there would be an idea. But then again, if it's not going to happen, and then maybe from my perspective, I already changed in terms of what I want to happen in my life, then I need to be very flexible, and it's not fixed, that I can be who I really want to be, depending on the situation. Because from my perspective, the purpose of a person really changes depending on the season or depending on the phase of your life that you're part of. From my perspective, when I transition from that role to this leadership development role, so I had a little bit of a pivot in there that I really recalibrated myself, really look at myself. And then that's where the flexibility comes into the picture. But in terms of the core that we believe in from grit perspective, it's still there, but you just have to be very flexible if that is something that you really want to achieve in your life.
So the balance I'm hearing there is, between Einstein's famous quote that if you keep on doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different result, that's the definition of insanity. But equally, if you give up at the first obstacle, you'll never achieve anything in your life. All right, so that's covered the grit element of it. So you put the two words together before. You said mind and grit. So where does mindset come into this?
Mindset really comes into the entirety. It's like the moment that you wake up in the morning, your mindset should really kick in. It's because from my perspective, and even not just personally, Mick, and even from the organizations that I'm working with, mindset is really important as well. Even if you drive specific like quality initiative or leadership development initiative, it's all about mindset. It's all about mindset change of the leaders. Like personally as well. So where does it come into the picture? So you already have the grit, and you have, from my perspective, you have to have that mindset that you can be the person that you want to be. And that's just because being gritty for me, it's the fuel. And then the mind grit would be the brain, and then the grit would be the heart. So that's how I look at that integration of the two concepts in there.
Yeah, nice. Okay, very good. I love the metaphor and how you're bringing it together there. Dr. Ray, it's been really great to have you on the show. I'm going to bring us to our rapid round now. So what's the one thing that you know now that you wish you knew when you were 20?
To love myself more, to care myself more. I've learned that you have to always look at yourself before you can influence others. You have to take care of yourself first.
Yeah, nice one. What's your favorite book?
Recently, my favorite is actually the Ikigai book. So it some sort of evaluate what's your purpose of being, what is that something that you're passionate about, And I believe that's also one of the key things that I want to share to a lot of listeners now, to take a look at that Ikigai framework to some sort of evaluate themselves too.
Yeah, very good. All right. So those that aren't familiar, I think most people on the show are familiar with it, but with Ikigai, you're looking at what you love doing, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be rewarded for. And your Ikigai is the intersection of those things, and it can help you to find your purpose for sure. What's your favorite quote, Ray?
My favorite quote is actually, it was shared by my mom, which is coming from like a famous person. She always said to me when I was younger that, hey, Ray, good, better, best. Don't let them rest until good is better and better is best. So I had that specific quote since I was younger, since I was still a little kid, and I've been bringing that specific quote to, and I've been sharing that as well to my direct reports and to all the people that I met. So that's the first one. I have actually two quotes, Mick. That's the first one. And the second quote is actually, life is what you make it.
You're coming back to manifestation there again. Yeah, very, very good, Ray. All right, so if people want to get hold of you, they'd like to know more about you, they'd like to know more about Mind Grit and the things that you do, how do people find you?
Thank you so much for that, Mick. They can look at me in the LinkedIn environment. You can follow me. You can add me right in the LinkedIn. You can also subscribe to my channel. That's Mind Grit by Dr. Ray Fremista. I also have a Facebook page, similar with my LinkedIn page, but I always have that LinkedIn account where you can message me freely. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you, anything that we can collaborate with or talk about.
All right, brilliant. Thank you so much, Ray. It's been such a pleasure having you on the show. I wish you the best of luck in your new role as you continue to grow there. Wish you the best of luck with Mind Grit as you continue to influence and inspire people around their mindset and around being gritty. So really great to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mick. It's such a pleasure, especially just hearing you. It means a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to The Leadership Project at mickspears.com. A huge call out to Faris Sadek for his video editing of all of our video content, and to all of the team at TLP. Joanne Goes On, Gerald Calabo, and my amazing wife, Say Spears. I could not do this show without you. Don't forget to subscribe to the Leadership Project YouTube channel, where we bring you interesting videos each and every week. And you can follow us on social, particularly on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Now, in the meantime, please do take care, look out for each other, and join us on this journey as we learn together and lead together.